I have found a rainbow off my katana blade. So I'm getting like a a rainbow effect on the sunlight here. I'm seeing it on the camera because it's catching. See the yellow there, and then it goes orangey and blue. So like the dirt particles, the dust in the air, and the blue in the sky is finding. When I'm doing this, watch this. Look at it. What's that? That is light resonance off the particles of the sword. So the incongruencies of perfection on the blade through use. So it's like rusty, you've been cutting leaves and stuff. But see how the dithering effect of the light, also with the carvings of the sharpenings, is creating a dithering effect, and it's scattering the sunlight. But then if you look at that part, what's that part right there? It's the midpoint between the two dithering particles. So that top part is the sharpening effect, and the bottom part is the edging effect. But see how the difference is separated? It's separated through refraction. Well, it's reflection, refraction, and dithering in one thing. But what I'm uniting here is that the light on the pool as a wavelength is a particle nature. So this is a snapshot of what's happening on the pool face when the light is rippling, and you could say that the micromillimeters on the pool, I'm losing my breath because I'm holding it, a micromillimeter on the pool, you could say, is this one aperture. So let's say the length of this sword is 1 micrometer of rippling effect on the pool, and you could have it either which way, up or down, laterally or horizontally. But watch, seeing that midpoint, how it bends around, and then that triangle fluctuation, that is resonance of a light. Resonance on light. Sorry, let me rephrase. I'm trying to discover this. It's the physical nature of a dust particle, which is the sword, or the water finding light, bouncing off it, and the wave form is the resonance. So the light and the object and the thing that dances between it, the wave, is the resonance. So you've got a light particle on the wall, put simply, and the reflection happening between the wall and the dust particle, which is the sword. And if you unite all of those three things together, you've got reality, and then you've got the experience of reality, which is the fourth thing. So you have, let me rephrase. Oh, that's cool. Check that out. This is an easier thing to map. So that's a wave, a physical wave of a dust particle, which is the sword aperture. So I'm repeating myself to simplify. And the more we paraphrase the same sentence, the better we understand it. So if we read a textbook and then condense it or distill it or redact the information into 10 pages and then redact that 10 pages into 1 page, we simplify our understanding and then make the insight learnt from a textbook of 1,000 pages usable as 1 page, and then dot points to then specify reference. Okay, that's wisdom and book reading mastery, but anyway, mastery as I've known. Okay, so here is the wave particle. This is the wave-like particle of nature, okay? So the particle is the sword, and the light is the knowing of the sword, or the luminosity of the sword, and the wave-like aperture reflected on the wall is how it flows. So let's say the dust particle is one dot in the sky, and then the light passes off of that dot, and you could say that the oscillation of the... Sorry, I'm getting too excited because it's a breakthrough in my understanding. Let's say the sword is a dust particle, the sun is heat and light, and when it hits heat and light, it creates an oscillation between the particle. So the particle starts... So, alright, let's say that's this. The dust particle is still and doing nothing, and then the sun rises and it lights up, and then that heat lights up. So the particle of the sword is a wave-like nature because of the oscillation. And then if you oscillate that onto another aperture, like a staff, a bamboo staff or the metal staff, or the wall over there, the oscillation of the particle through heat transfer affects how the light is transferred onto other apertures. So you could say the sword particle oscillates wave particles around or reflective of it, and as the sword oscillates, it hits other particles, which is like, I'm using weapons here as an example, but when it hits other particles with either its physical oscillation or that light oscillation. So essentially, luminous objects reflect light. The object of the mirror that is luminous, the particle, oscillates due to the heat. That oscillation changes the covalent transfer of energy from one sword to another sword, and then from another sword to a wooden pole, or worse, the metal one probably be more reactive. What I'm saying is that the effect of reality upon reality of scope, so a millimeter of affectance or a millennia of time, like the butterfly effect of wind, is the fact that particles affect other particles through fusion or nuclear fusion, but not of explosive magnitude, and the chain reaction is flow of energy. So you could say that this is an electricity cable, and when it finds, see how that blue's lit up, it's reflective, and that electricity hits that's a resistor, but that's a conductor. And then you've got a resistor and a conductor as one. Sorry, that's a pretty violent. But what I'm getting at is that the wave-like particle reality of nature is that the particle changes its nature due to oscillation of energy, namely from the sun. So the air, my best example is playing a piano and finding that when I play the piano differently, a grand piano or a stand-up piano, an actual acoustic piano, sounds a lot different in each times of the day. So right now it's cold and it's warming up, but see how that same effect off the sword is the same effect on the window as the moisture draws away and condenses on the window. So, referencing everything I've just mentioned, the window is a sword. The light is landing on the particle of the sword or the window, and the moisture is drawn to the sword, aka the window, which is the particle, because of its electromagnetic frequency or its ability to hold water. So is the brickwork drawn to water as much as the window, or does the window hold the water differently, and the wave-like nature of the water cascading down as droplets upon the window is the waving effect. So you could say that droplet there, where is it? That one there moving is waving down. It's waving down the plane of, here's one. It's waving down the plane of the sword, aka the window. But what I'm getting at is that the reality that we exist in is completely affectant to its affectance. So the stimuli is us experiencing sorry, I'm getting excited because I'm having a breakthrough. The experience of a human being is in finding and correlating the differences of reality So the notes could be the water droplets, or the notes could be what time of day it is. A note could be the moon affecting the tide. It could be the sun affecting the water to moisturize. So my swimming pool has a lot of water condensed around it, and the outside it's winter. It's nearly winter. What I'm getting at is there's more moisture in the air because the Earth is rotating 10% or less in a different format and creating a season because of its axial shift. So the Earth actually spins not completely around, but more like that, and then we're spinning around to the east. So it's not an equator. It's like saying that there is the equator line. It's more like that, and it oscillates like this. So Earth is a sword, and when I was turning the sword around, all right, let's link all this together. Let's say the dust particle is Earth, and let's simplify and say these poles are the seasons. So when the Earth spins, it catches sunlight and affects the water. Let's say that's water. It affects the water particles, how the seasons turn around on Earth based on the windowing of the condensation. So the clouds could be the window, the air could be the window, and now we're having dawn. So I'm using violent weapons to explain science, and then so I'm playing music with reality, and I am absolutely enjoying life because... Hello, Pop. Hello, my boy. Oh, he's the goodest boy. There's a little puppy time. Little boy. All right, mate. So, Earth is the particle. How the sun hits the particle affects how the sun oscillates the particle. So Earth spins in a certain angle. You could probably say the Earth axis is based on how much land. So the angle of this sword, if that just stayed there, you'd only get one angle. But because it oscillates in such a way, if this sword had 70% water in a random effect, let's say that pole there is water, and this pole is the dust, and this is the metal, and that's the wood. So that's Taoist alchemy there. And then the sunlight hits it. If these three things are in misproportion, so put it this way, the pole would spin one certain way if it was all just a wooden pole. The water would spin just one certain way because it's a water pole, or like not the North Pole. It's a staff with the analogy of water. But then if you combine them all together, like Avatar or Captain Planet. Have you seen this movie, Captain Planet? Mate, that mullet, oh my God. Anyway, if it was 60% water, 10%, 20% metal, and then 5% wood and a conglomerate, but if you had the water all on one side, you'd find that the sun would oscillate that particle in a certain way that you'd find miscellaneous. Hang on, I'm losing my track because I'm seeing absolutely beautiful things in my camera. Look, there's a rainbow. Okay, recap. Earth is the particle. It is flowed. So are we seeing these particles here? Here we go. Let's say Earth is the particle, and when the sun hits the particle oscillates in a certain way. So let's capture that one, and it's caught and then drawn in. Okay, so I just created a vacuum with my sword, which is pretty cool. Okay, so the person exists. Oh, yeah, that's sure. The person exists in reality and is fed through life being eaten and experiencing life. And then in the earth, we experience the consistencies which we correlate to planting our crops or tracking the beasts in the field. The human mind has developed the ability to remember and track such advanced complexities to be able to survive the death of our own stomach. So if we don't eat in our stomach, we die. But if we don't know and plan for the seasons, we can't feed our stomach. So we've mastered farming, we mastered hunting, but now we're set in a way where we know all the stuff that happens on Earth, but we can't explain why we do it. So why do we have a stomach to feed the body and the mind? Why do we have a mind to feed the body? So the stomach. Sorry, I'm using a sword against Buddha, but it's my laser pointer. So the stomach is an energy system to feed the brain, and the brain is the thinking system of reality correlated to explain how that body will work to feed the stomach, which will then feed the mind. So we're going from wave-like particle nature to very the fabric of philosophical awareness, the fabric of developing such awareness to then circumnavigate the fact that we don't know what we're doing or we're afraid to ask. So I'm having a lot of difficulty with people at the moment, basically subduing my intelligence because they can't reconcile the fact that they don't like looking at a picture of a brain outside of the skull, and I think inside the brain physically to explain why I have a brain outside of the reference pool of analogy of abstract thought upon reality. So I feel like I'm dissecting, but it's all relative. If we see the person, then we can meditate and grow physical education to get healthy. If we see the food we're eating, so the grass across there, we can grow it better or pick better grass to eat better, essentially, or antelope or whatever food. If you're healthy in your body, your mind is healthier. But then what happens with the internet is we're filled with all the terrors and trolling nature of humans that survive themselves by hunting others. And when I say hunt others, if someone's unhappy, they hunt others' unhappiness or create unhappiness to then survive their own inability to solve their unhappiness. What I'm getting at is that the wave-like particle nature of oscillating a dust particle with light and finding it oscillates in weird or inconsistent formats is because particles of reality are not directly, it's like a molecule of iron, clay, silicate, is that when the light hits it, it'll oscillate differently. But if it was just iron, it would light up differently and move. If it was just sand, silicate, it would light up and move differently. What I'm getting at is that the very fabric of reality is scary for others to reconcile because they don't want to look inside their own brain physically, or the big telltale